Very quick and easy video today. Today we're benchmarking Warzone 2.0 with some budget popular graphics cards. Let's get started. Real quickly before moving on, today's video is sponsored by the AutoFull gaming chair, and as you can see, this has a super unique graffiti design to it. This is a super detailed, colorful, and vibrant design on the chair, and this carries over to not just the chair itself, but also the lower back support pillow, as well as the headrest pillow that comes included. Underneath the chair, there's also a leg rest, and when you combine that with the reclining feature, you can get some serious break time in between landing all the headshots during your gaming sessions. I personally really enjoyed the Tier S build quality and assembly process. This instruction booklet is actually really in-depth and perfectly guides you through every single installation step, which is the best I've ever seen. AutoFull also sells a ton of other really unique designs instead of just the basic colors like you typically see. You can check them all out here on their website and social media channels, and they're also offering all of you a really solid Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale of $60 off if you use code BFCM. Learn more by clicking the first link down in the description, and thanks again to them for sponsoring today's video and giving me somewhere to sit comfortably with some style. So shout out to Sam again for the huge benchmarking run. He recently benchmarked Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which you can check out in the upper right hand corner if you're interested. But here's the list of GPUs that we're testing today. On the AMD side, we have the RX 580 4GB, RX 6400, and the RX 6600 XT. For NVIDIA, we have the GTX 970, GTX 1060 6GB, GTX 1080, which I don't have footage for, whoops. We also have the GTX 1630, GTX 1650, and finally we have the RTX 2060. And just like last time, we do have some Team Blue action for our run today, as I picked up the Intel Arc 750 just so we can show how that's doing as well. This obviously isn't a popular GPU right now, but I've actually been test driving it every single day in my PC at the office, so I figured we throw it in there. And in 2022, a lot of these are still really popular GPU options, as you can see from the Steam hardware survey charts, but to be honest, these are just the GPUs that we had on hand right now, either in inventory or in completed builds. And we did actually have to take out some of these GPUs from our Black Friday inventory, and if you didn't already hear, on Black Friday we're going to be selling at least 10 gaming PCs at just completely obnoxious prices. Like, I'm serious, no place on the entire internet is going to compete with us. You guys know how I roll at this point. I sell these builds for less than what they would cost to build them yourselves. So if you're hunting for a PC, please do not buy anything until you see the deals that we're going to have on Black Friday. That's zackstechdrift.com/shop. It's going to be just obnoxious. And with the self-promotion aside, let's jump into these benchmarks. And real quickly, here's the testing rate that we have today. Again, this is the same one as the Modern Warfare 2 benchmarking video. For the CPU, we have the Ryzen 5 7600X, 32GB of DDR5 RAM clocked at 6000 megahertz. And honestly, that's all that's really important. And remember that when we're testing a game that's this new, we certainly don't have all of the driver and game optimizations in place yet. So you can expect that these numbers will increase over time in the next few weeks. And without further ado, here's the chart showing how every GPU stacked up side by side with the same exact settings. We'll show individual benchmarks for each GPU with the settings we recommend per card right after this. For this one, we put the settings at 1080p in minimum, but with a 100% resolution scale. The default minimum setting set it to 50%, by the way, so we just bumped that up, and here are the results. Now, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but yeah, as you can see, Warzone 2.0 is definitely a tough game to run. That Intel benchmark is also looking horrific compared to everything else, but we can see a small trend of the lower powered AMD cards actually looking pretty solid. But if those numbers don't look attractive to you, let's get into these benchmarks with each GPU with the settings that we recommend running for each of these cards. Now, as a quick disclaimer, we're only testing the preset quality options and we're not diving deep into every single setting. You could certainly tweak the settings to squeeze out a bit more performance if you wanted to, but the purpose of this video is to simply just show you right around what you can expect with these budget graphics cards. Starting with Team Red, we have the still very popular RX 580. Remember that this is the 4GB model, and here we put the settings at true 1080p minimum. That's with the 50% resolution scale, and we actually got very close to our 144 FPS target with an average of 130. After that, we have the 6400. The reason we have this in the studio is because of that super budget $200 gaming PC that I uploaded last week, which you can check out in the upper right hand corner. And here again, in 1080p true minimum, we got 159 FPS, not too shabby. And for our last AMD card, we have the RX 6600 XT, and here we actually bumped up the settings to balanced, which is basically medium settings, and we got an FPS average of 164. Before going to the Team Green side, we'll check out this Intel Arc A750, and honestly, this is just pretty pathetic. With 1080p and true minimum settings, we still only got 87 FPS. Not great for a $300 graphics card, but hopefully some Intel drivers come here soon, which should significantly bump these numbers up. For the first NVIDIA card, we have the GTX 970, still a very solid option for a $100 GPU or even lower than that right now. And here with 1080p and minimum settings, we got 116 FPS. After that, we have the GTX 1060 6GB card. Still loving those Asus dual all-white cards, which is what we're rocking today. And here in 1080p minimum, we got 133 FPS. After that, we have the GTX 1080, a new addition to the benchmarking arsenal this time, and in 1080p minimum, but with a 90% resolution scale, we got right on the money at 144 FPS. Obviously, you'd be perfectly fine with 100% scale, but we were trying to target 144 for these benchmarks. Getting towards the end here, we have one of the most hated GPUs on the planet, the GTX 1630, and honestly, it probably should continue to be hated on because we only got 88 FPS with 1080p in minimum settings. After that, we have the GTX 1650, the non-super edition, just as a reminder, and with 1080p in minimum, we got 125 FPS. And finally, for our last card, we have the ever so popular RTX 2060, and in 1080p with 90% resolution scale, we got 151 FPS. And before letting you guys go, I do want to hear who all here is making an early run at the Warzone God title. Comment down below with how many dubs you've gotten so far, and I'll kick things off first. Absolutely zero. A big fat goose egg. And honestly, it'll probably continue to stay that way until Warzone 3.0 comes out at least. And if you're like me and you just want to completely ditch Warzone and you're more interested in like team deathmatch with Modern Warfare 2, then feel free to click the video that's up there now.